Hi y'all, this is Regina from Regina's Crafting and More. I'm going to show you how to make a self-binding placemat using your blocks that you stitch out. Now this is the I'm Hi y'all, this is Regina. Excuse me. Welcome back to Regina's Crafting and More. I am going to show you how to make a self-binding placemat using your embroidered blocks. I'm going to do the I'm her boo, I'm his witch blocks and turn them into placemats. I don't want to have to deal with making binding, so I'm going to use the self-binding method. Alright, so this is my 8-inch block that I created. I cut a strip of fabric 4 3/4 inches wide. Now this is going to be a little wider than you need, but we need some fudge room just in case. And I'm going to sew the side panels on first, and then I'll trim down here at the bottom when after I get this sewn on. Now one thing you want to make sure of when you trim your blocks, that you trim them to a scant 1/4 inch. When you start sewing your borders on, no matter what you're making, whether it's a hot pad or a wall hanging or whatever, when you start, just do a little bit of a stitch down and then lock that last stitch and check to make sure that you are stitching right on the other side, on this side, not the seam side, of this line from the decorative fill, because you don't want that line to be showing. So that's what I did. I started, and then I trimmed, and I checked to make sure that I was going to have my seam overlapping, and I'm just going to go all the way down. Trim it, and I'm going to go cut this off even. Alright, so now I'm going to put my fabric down on the other side and do the same thing. Oops, I have black thread in my bobbin. Oh my goodness. Hang on. And I'm not tearing that seam out. Just not going to do it. Not going to do it. Alright, so I put in my white bobbin. I've got my fabric lined up with the outside of my block. I know for a fact that, I'm going to check here. I'll show you what I do just to make sure. So I lock my stitch in. Oh, hello, go. There we go. So go down a little bit. Lock your stitch down. And then just make sure. Okay, so I am just to this side of it. So I need to scooch my needle over a little bit. And restitch that. So I'm just making sure that I'm covering up that line from the decorative fill. If you've trimmed just a little bit too big or a little bit too small, it just depends on how you're cutting that day. At least it does me. All right, so I'm aligning my fabric back up. I should be good to go now. So forward a little bit, and then I'm gonna back up. And I should be good to go on my seam. I'm just using my 1/4 inch foot. And back up, trim. And I'm going to go trim this off. Alright, so I'm going to do my other block, and before I get started, I'm just looking at the placement for my seam, and it looks like it's going to go over just make sure my needle, yeah, I'm good to go. Alright, so I'm just checking my seam because I did notice that I cut my seams a little on the scanter of a scant 1/4 inch. So I'm going to sew my borders on this one. Alright, so I trimmed off my fabric and I'm going to check to make sure that I'm sitting just the other side, and I will be. Alright, so I'm going to put my fabric, yeah, so let me turn that TV. Alright, so I have great difficulty sleeping at night, and after a few days of 2.5, 3 hours of sleep, I don't work well, and I shouldn't even come in here and do anything. Alright, so I'm going to lock my stitch. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to go backwards. And I'm going to go forward. So, yesterday was one of those days. The only thing I did in here was work on stitching these blocks, because that's just a matter of stitching. And then when I trimmed, yeah, I didn't trim very well. And that's when I realized, okay, go backwards. Hello. There we go. That I just needed to walk away. So I did. Alright, so I'm going to go trim this up, and I'll be right back. Well, alright, I've added my side panels. I've pressed, made sure everything was straight. Now I'm going to add my top and my bottom panels. So for this, you're going to need 2 3/4 inches by the length that from here to here, which is about 17, hang on, should be about 17 inches to 17.5 inches, depending on how you trim your 1/4 inch seams. Okay, so I'm just saying you'll need 17.5 inches. And we're going to stitch this on and do the same thing. So I want to make sure, I'm going to double check, and it looks like this setting on my foot is fine. Just going to check down here. Since I was, yeah, it looks good. Alright, so got my needle position correct for this, and I'm just going to sew on these side seams, and I'll be right back. Alright, I have both my top and my bottom borders on, and I'm going to go trim and press, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I've pressed by all my borders. Turn this over and let you see. Everything is pressed outwards. Okay, so all your seams are going outwards, including here. And your backing piece needs to be 2 inches wider, 2 inches wider on each side. So whatever your top of your placemat measures, add 2 inches to it. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what size to cut, but I'm going to measure mine and cut it. Just add 2 inches to whatever this finishes out at. All right, so depending on how you sew your 1/4 inch seams, and I say that because, and you stitch, I'm sorry, how you trim your 1/4 inch seams. If you have a block without borders put on it, and it measures 8.5, which is what I've done here. I don't know how much of this you can see. Whoops, sorry, hold on. So I took some freezer paper, and I created an 8.5 inch block in the center of it. Okay. And I needed it to finish at 17, the top. Okay. So this is 17 by, what did I figure here? By 13 is your top. Your back, should your block be exactly 8.5 without any borders on it, is going to need to be 2 inches wider. Okay, so if we go on this, it should be, you should cut your backing 21 inches by, let's see, what did I say this was? 13 plus 4 is 17. So you would need to trim your backing 17 inches wide by 14, did I say 14? I'm sorry, 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 17 inches by 21 inches. 17 by 21. But I would measure your block and calculate. You do need 4 3/4, 4 3/4, 2 3/4 based on an 8.5 inch block. Just do your measurements, okay? And then you want 2 inches all the way around. Whatever your top, your placemat top finishes, you want 2 inches all the way around. All right, so I have my width, and I've made sure I've laid my top on top of my backing fabric that's folded, and I made sure that I have 2 inches on this side and 2 inches on this side. There we go, 2 inches on this side. All right, and I'm going to trim this. This will give me my width, my length. All right, so I've opened up my cut fabric, which I will end up with 2 pieces because I had my selvages together. And I've made sure that I've centered my top here. I have 2 inches over here. I'm just making sure I'm level all the way around. And I have my 2 inches over here. Now I need 2 inches at the top, so I'm going to slide my ruler up. Just making sure I'm still, yep, I'm on point. I was a little crooked at the top. All right, so now I'm going to put a mark for my 2 inches at the top. And I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. 2 inches at the top, make a mark. Sorry for my mess here. I've got fabric everywhere. All right, so now I need to trim this off to get my backing fabric, and I'm going to trim my selvage off. I'll be back. All right, so once you've trimmed your fabric, make sure, just double check, make sure you have 2 inches all the way around. All right, so we've gotten our front of our placemat done. Now, I'm going to use, I tried using, and I did make it, a instructions from another site. I did not like it. I'm not going to tell you which one it was, no. So after I did the ones from, did the other one with the instructions from Shabby Fabrics, I took the first one I made apart, and I got all the threads off of the black, but apparently I didn't get all of them off of this one. All right, so, and I need to get all these off of here. Oh my goodness gracious. So that's the quilting part of it on the front. And there goes my good scissors. My placemat front, and I've brought it to the other end of the backing, matched up the center seam, and I have my corners marked. With a 1/4 inch both ways, and now I'm just going to sew from one end of the 1/4 inch square to the other side. Well, no, I'm going to stop to leave an opening. I'm going to stop and then restart right down here. Right down here. All right, and I'll be back. All right, so I've sewn both ways. All right, so according to Shabby Fabrics directions, after you've done the top and the bottom, you want to pull up the sides basically the same way as you did the top and the bottom, except you have these, I'm not going to take that off there. You have these funny little ears. Okay, so you want to make sure, there we go, you have these funny little ears out here. So you want to make sure that the edge of your backing fabric and the edge of your front of the placemat are aligned at the top. And you're going to sew from that little square, the point, the outside point. I'm hoping, let me see if I can get a little closer. Yeah, you can see that. So you're going to sew from that edge to the other edge that you've done the same on the corner, and make sure that your fabric is all pulled and even along the side. And I've done that with the other side. So now I'm going to, I hope I have. We'll see. I'm going to sew this and I'll be back. All right, so when you're coming back towards this side, remember, you don't want to go past that edge that you marked, that 1/4 inch edge. I'll back up. All right, I didn't get any fabric caught, so now I need to do the other side. So we've got these funny little ears, and I've got my front and my back aligned. Got to fold this back. All right, and get my needle right in that edge. I think that's where it belongs. Nope. Come up. It's just a little too far to the... All right, there we go. All right. So now I'm going to sew from corner to corner. All right, so I'm coming down to this other edge, and I'm just making sure that I don't have any fabric stuck underneath there. All right, back to the cutting table. All right, so now that all sides are sewn up to the corners, you're going to go take one corner, taking the long edge of the long edge of the placemat. I'm going to take it and pull this fabric back and go over to this edge. You want it to be straight. You want to get your corners put down and make all this straight. Okay. Straighten this out. All right, make sure all that is straight. You're going to make sure this edge is straight. You're going to take your ruler and you're going to mark a line right. You want to make sure that you're lined up along this edge. This is the hardest part, especially when you've got that embroidered block back there. All right, so you're going to take the straight edge of your ruler. You're going to put the straight edge right at the corner where you finish sewing. Make sure all this is straight, and you're going to mark a line. And that's what you want to sew on. You're going to sew from that edge of the quilt, or the placemat, all the way to the edge down here. So I'm going to put a pin. know why that's not straight. Don't tell me I did something wrong. All right, I'll be back. All right, so I've sewn from just underneath where the bulk is, right up to the edge, all the way out. If you want to check it to make sure you've done it right, take and push it through. And there it is. Okay, so you've got a nice mitered edge there. We'll be trimming that off. So I'm going to do that to the other quarters, and I'll be back. All right, so after you trim off your excess fabric before you turn your placemat out, trim off the extra little bit that you have on the corners, then turn everything out through the opening that you've left. If you have large hands, I would leave a 6-inch opening. I left a 5-inch opening in my hand. I was having trouble turning it out. So I would just leave a 6-inch opening if you've got larger hands, and then you'll be able to tuck it all in. So once you get it all turned out, you're going to give it a press, and I did top stitching all along the outside to help secure that opening and give it a little something something. All right, so there's the I'm his which, here's the I'm her boo, and my husband loved them. He said those are really cute. So I hope you enjoy making these placemats. Shabby Fabrics method of doing this is so much easier than some of the others that I looked at, and one that I tried that I will not name, but you leave the 2 inches and you fold an inch in and you fold it over again and do some trimming, and it didn't turn out very nice. That's why you see in the video I was ripping, I had loose threads because I ripped it out. Now the only thing that I did not do is I did not stitch in the ditch on these side seams to kind of secure it. So I think I'm going to go back and do that. I'm going to go this way with it, and then I'm going to go like halfway and then come back so it doesn't bunch up weird. But anyhow, I hope you make you some fun placemats using your embroidered blocks. Thanks for watching. Enjoy.